He organized the largest coalition army in Japanese history. He had the superior position. He had the numbers. And then, in a single day, it collapsed. Not because he was wrong, because he was betrayed. I am a descendant of a samurai family. And after going back to the original Japanese sources, I found something. Today, I reveal the truth about Ishida Mitsunari. There is a version of Ishida Mitsunari you may already know. A cold bureaucrat, an arrogant official, a man whose ambition destroyed the Toyotomi legacy. That image, the villain of Sekigahara, was built after his death, built by the winners. The Japanese primary sources show a different man entirely, a man who refused to compromise, who stayed loyal until the last moment and paid for it with his life.
October 1st, 1600, Kyoto, Japan. A man walks to the execution ground at Rokujo Kawahara. He has been hiding in a mountain village for 6 days, surviving on whatever food the villagers could offer. Before that, he commanded the largest military coalition in Japanese history. Over 80,000 soldiers. A plan he had built for 2 years, and it ended in half a day. His name is Ishida Mitsunari, and he is about to be executed by the man he spent his life trying to stop. According to later accounts, as he walked through the streets of Kyoto under guard, the crowds pressed close. Some came to mock him, some came to stare. One account recorded after his death describes him as composed, calm, looking straight ahead. He was 41 years old. He had served one lord his entire life, Toyotomi Hideyoshi. He had built the administrative systems that ran a unified Japan. He had managed armies, land surveys, and diplomatic negotiations across the continent. He had done things no samurai before him had done, and none of it was enough. But before I tell you how it ended, I need to tell you how it began.
There is something the history books almost never tell you about Mitsunari. He had one friend, a single man, who knew the battle was already lost before it began. A man who was dying of illness, who joined anyway. We will find out why before this episode ends. If you want to hear Japan's real samurai history told by someone who goes back to the original Japanese sources, hit subscribe now. The story of Ishida Mitsunari is not the one you were told. Let's find out what really happened.
1560. A boy is born in Omi province in the village of Ishida, near the shores of Lake Biwa. His birth name is Sakichi. His father is a minor local lord in the service of the Asai clan. The family has land. They have standing, but they are not powerful. Sakichi, it is said, showed an unusual kind of intelligence from early on. Not the kind measured by strength or swordsmanship, but by reading people, reading situations, knowing what was needed before anyone asked. As a young boy, he was placed in a nearby temple to study. This was common for sons of minor lords' education before service. And this is where the most famous story about him begins. Though I have to be honest with you, the original Japanese sources cannot confirm it happened. According to later accounts written in the Edo period, decades after his death, a warlord named Hashiba Hideyoshi stopped at a temple near Nagahama during a hawk hunt, thirsty after a long ride. The boy serving him brought 3 cups of tea, the first large and lukewarm to quench immediate thirst, the second smaller and warmer, the third small and hot, perfectly judged to the body's cooling needs. Hideyoshi, so the legend goes, hired him on the spot. The story is called Sankansha, the 3 cups of tea. It appears in multiple Edo period texts, but no document from Mitsunari's own lifetime confirms it. Historians treat it as tradition, not fact. What the primary sources do confirm is this. By the early 1580s, a young man named Sekichi, who would become Ishida Mitsunari, was already close to Toyotomi Hideyoshi, close enough to matter. And Hideyoshi did not keep useless men close. In 1583, Mitsunari fought in the Battle of Shizugatake, an early civil war, to determine who would inherit Oda Nobunaga's power. One military record, the Hitoyanagi Kake, lists him among the forward vanguard the soldiers sent to fight at the front. He was a warrior when he had to be, but that was not what made him essential. What made him essential was numbers. Mitsunari understood land. He understood taxes. He understood how to count, organize, and systematize the administration of an entire nation. In 1584, Hideyoshi began the Taikō Kenchi, a national land survey across Japan. For the first time in history, every plot of land in the country would be measured, recorded, and taxed under a single standard. No more guesswork, no more underpayment. No more local lords hiding their true wealth. Mitsunari ran it, province by province, year after year. He also administered the sword hunt, the disarmament decree that separated farmers from weapons for a generation. The written orders carry his name. In 1585, when Hideyoshi became Kampaku, the regent of Japan, Mitsunari was formally appointed as one of the 5 commissioners who ran the day-to-day government of a unified nation. He was 25 years old. He was also, by then, deeply unpopular among the military commanders. The men who had won battles resented the man who counted the profits. He questioned their expense reports. He challenged their land claims. He told Hideyoshi when the numbers did not add up. This was not a man who tried to be liked. He tried to be right. In a world where reputation was everything, that distinction was dangerous. August 18th, 1598. Toyotomi Hideyoshi died. He left behind a young heir, Toyotomi Hideyori, and a fragile political agreement. 5 senior lords, called the Go-Tairo the 5 Elders, were to govern until the heir came of age. 5 administrators, the Gobugyo the 5 commissioners, including Mitsunari, would manage day-to-day affairs. The most powerful of the 5 elders was Tokugawa Ieyasu. Mitsunari watched Ieyasu begin to expand his influence, almost immediately forming marriage alliances with other lords, meeting with generals privately, consolidating power in ways that violated Hideyoshi's last agreements. He documented it, he protested it, he sent letters. No one moved against Ieyasu. Meanwhile, the military commanders who had returned from Korea, angry, exhausted, and unpaid, directed their frustration at Mitsunari. He had managed the logistics of an overseas war for years. They blamed him for everything that went wrong. In 1599, 7 senior military lords plotted to assassinate him. They moved toward his residence in Osaka. Mitsunari escaped and took refuge with Tokugawa Ieyasu himself, the man he was trying to stop. Ieyasu brokered a settlement. Mitsunari resigned from his official post and withdrew to Sawayama Castle, his domain in Omi Province. On the surface, it looked like a defeat. In reality, he was preparing. The lords who had retired from politics were sometimes the ones who built the coalitions that changed history. In 1600, when Ieyasu moved his army east to fight the Uesugi clan, one of the lords still loyal to Toyotomi, Mitsunari saw his opening. He sent letters across Japan. He made promises. He called in debts. 84,000 soldiers agreed to stand against Tokugawa Ieyasu.
84,000 soldiers, superior terrain, a plan years in the making. And on paper, Mitsunari had already won. So how did he lose? In a matter of hours? On a day when everything was in his favor? The answer is not what you think, and it tells us everything about who he really was.
September 15th, 1600. The plain of Sekigahara, in the mountains of central Japan. The Western Army Mitsunari's coalition took position on the high ground surrounding the plain. They had arrived first. They held the geography. Mitsunari commanded from Sasao Hill, northwest of the battlefield. His forces, roughly 6,000 men, formed the left anchor of a formation meant to encircle the Eastern Army from three sides. The fighting began in the early morning fog. According to documents written 2 days after the battle, among the few primary sources that survive, the engagement was fierce on multiple fronts. For hours, the Western Army held. Mitsunari's units fought hard against the Eastern Army's advance. The outcome was not yet clear. And then Kobayakawa Hideyoshi moved. Kobayakawa commanded 15,000 soldiers positioned on a hill above the Western Army's flank. He had been given that position by Mitsunari's side. He had agreed to fight for the West. He attacked the Western Army instead. When Kobayakawa's forces struck Otani Yoshitsugu's position from above, the Western line collapsed. Other commanders, who had promised loyalty, followed Kobayakawa's lead and switched sides within the hour. The Western Army, which had held for half a day, disintegrated. Mitsunari fled north, over the mountains, into the snow country where he had been born. The battle that was supposed to change everything had lasted approximately 6 hours.
Here is a question worth sitting with. Mitsunari built a coalition of 84,000 soldiers. He had the right position. He had the strategic plan. He lost because of betrayal, not because he was wrong. In modern organizations, we talk about the danger of building systems that depend entirely on others keeping their word. Mitsunari understood this risk. He pressed forward anyway, because in his judgment, doing nothing was the greater failure. There are people in every era who choose the losing side of a battle they believe must be fought. History tends to remember them as fools, until it remembers them as something else entirely. Who gets to decide which one Mitsunari was? Keep watching.
6 days after Sekigahara, Mitsunari was found hiding in the village of Furuhashi, a mountainous area in the province where he was born, not far from his mother's family homeland. He was captured by a search party sent by Tanaka Yoshimasa, a lord who, it happens, had grown up in the same region. They had known each other as young men. According to records written after the fact, when Mitsunari came face to face with Tanaka, he said something that has stayed with historians for 400 years. Losing this battle is beyond words. It is a disgrace. But when I think of the debt I owe to Lord Hideyoshi, I have no regrets. He then presented Tanaka with the short sword Hideyoshi had given him years before, a blade called Kiriha Sadamune, also known today as the Ishida Sadamune, now held in the Tokyo National Museum. He was taken to Kyoto, displayed publicly, and on October 1st, 1600, he was executed at Rokujo Kawahara. He was 41 years old. Now the mystery I planted earlier in this episode, his friend, Otani Yoshitsugu, was one of the finest military minds of the Sengoku period. He had served Hideyoshi, led campaigns, governed territory. By 1600, he was dying of a severe illness, its exact nature unknown to this day, though scholars have proposed various possibilities. He was carried to the battlefield of Sekigahara in a palanquin because he could no longer walk. Before the battle, according to later tradition, Yoshitsugu urged Mitsunari not to fight, arguing it could not be won. Mitsunari pressed on regardless, and Yoshitsugu came anyway. He positioned his forces at the most exposed flank, the one Kobayakawa would eventually strike. He held his position for hours against overwhelming force. When the line broke, he chose to die rather than surrender. His retainer buried his head in secret on the battlefield. It was never found by the Eastern Army. Why did a dying man choose this? The records do not explain. But the friendship between Mitsunari and Yoshitsugu confirmed through their correspondence and their actions suggest that Yoshitsugu understood something. That some loyalties are not calculated. That some choices are made not because they are wise, but because they are the only choice that fits the kind of person you are.
My ancestors served Uesugi Kenshin, and after Kenshin died, they served the Uesugi clan that came after him. The lord who led that clan in 1600 was Uesugi Kagekatsu, and Uesugi Kagekatsu was one of Mitsunari's allies. One of the lords whose movement Ieyasu used as a pretext to march his army east, creating the opening that Mitsunari needed to raise the west. My family's clan was connected to this story. They were on the side that lost. I think about that sometimes, what it means to be on the wrong side of history and to know it before the battle starts. Mitsunari was not the villain. He was the man who saw clearly what was coming and chose to stand against it anyway. Whether that makes him wise or foolish, 400 years later, we are still asking the question next time. The legend of the man Miyamoto Musashi faced at the most famous duel in Japanese history. Was Sasaki Kojiro even a real person? The original sources may surprise you.